What up, YouTube? Hege back with another reaction video. Today we're going to be reacting to the Can You Solve the Hardest Problem in NBA History? Shout out Flight, a couple of the YouTubers I seen doing this. Let's get right into it.
If you had the job of choosing the #1 overall pick in this year's NBA draft, who would you pick? And just as important, do you think you could make the correct choice?
100%.
Anthony Edwards, Obi Toppin, LaMelo Ball, James Wiseman. Are you choosing a player that fills a role on your team, or are you choosing strictly based on the best player in the draft regardless of position?
Depends what team.
In some years, the decision is pretty clear-cut. But in other years, you could be one pick away from making a terrible decision that ripples through your franchise for years to come. Basketball is a team sport. It takes an entire cohesive unit to win a championship. But picking the best player in any given draft class can propel a team in the right direction for the next decade. So, who do you choose?
LaMelo.
Well, this decision is not nearly as easy as you may think.
It's easy this year.
Every once in a while, a franchise will use their #1 overall pick on a player that makes you scratch your head. Out of all the non-NBA prospects in the world, you chose him? I mean, there's got to be a reason why dozens of scouts, coaches, GMs, and millions of dollars worth of resources concluded that these players were worthy of a #1 overall pick. And like myself, you're probably thinking, hey, I guarantee I can make a better pick than this franchise. I mean, hindsight is always 20/20. It's easy to sit back and say choosing Darko Milicic over Melo, D-Wade, and Chris Bosh was a terrible decision.
That was pretty bad.
17 years after the fact.
No. We knew that after the draft.
But making the correct choice in the moment is a near monumental task. Out of the last 40 NBA drafts dating back to 1980, only 12 drafts featured a #1 overall pick that was actually the best player in the draft. That means even the most savvy NBA minds in the world pick the best player in the draft only 30% of the time. That's a...
Okay, but some of these options down here, like, bruh, damn near pretty much the best player in the draft. Like, come on, bro.
Atrocious. Typically, GMs do a decent job as they work their way down the draft board. But there's just something about that first pick. In a 7-year stretch between 2005 and 2011, every single #1 overall pick was not the best player in their draft class. And even with more advanced statistics at our disposal, more film available to break down, and better scouting techniques, making the right pick today is just as unlikely as it was 40 years ago. Watching an NBA prospect up close and in person is a crucial part of the process, but for the sake of this experiment, I am going to give you 3 players and their college stats. Now, all 3 of these players were in the same draft, all of them one and done.
The first one looks like Marco.
The Sixers had the first pick in this draft, and they already have a great guard running the point. With the limited information provided, if you had to pick, who are you choosing
Middle
with the
one's
#1
Malik Monk,
overall
bro.
pick?
100%.
I'll give you a moment to think about it.
6'3", 19. Jason Tatum?
So, have you made a decision? Hopefully, you've made the correct one, because out of these 3 prospects, one of them has had by far the best NBA career so far. Now, it's still very early in their careers, but Jason Tatum has asserted himself as the best player in this draft. Of course, making a decision based off of just stats is tough to do. But even with the advantage of watching the kid play, GMs and scouts across the league felt that he was only worthy of a 3rd pick in the draft. If the Sixers picked Tatum instead of Fultz with the #1 overall pick, it is very possible that they would have made a trip to the finals by now. But making the correct pick is not as easy as it
It's very possible Ben Simmons would have been rotted.
seems. So let's give this another shot. Here are 3 more prospects. This time, all 3 players the same position. Here are their pre-NBA numbers. One of them being an international player,
Giannis.
one of them being a 2-year college guy, and the other being a one and done. The team with the first overall pick needs a stretch forward that can space the floor and get the ball inside. Now, make your pick. So, which player did you choose? Well, hopefully, it was prospect number 1, because this player is soon to be a 2-time league MVP. As we've discussed, in regards to some picks, it is nearly impossible to predict what kind of player they will become. So if you didn't pick Giannis in this experiment, you're not alone. At the time, there was very little evidence that showed that in just 6 years, he would become the MVP of the NBA. In 2013, if you took Giannis with a top 10 pick in the draft, you would be laughed at and fired from your job. And in 2013, if you let Anthony Bennett slip past the 10th pick, you would also be laughed at and fired from your job. And yet, in hindsight, both of those decisions would have been the correct one. Let's do one more. This time around, we have 3 guards, each with their own sets of strengths and weaknesses and all with very different games. In this situation, your team does not need a guard, but you know that the best...
This is this year's draft. Because that middle one's LaMelo. That one, I don't know who the fuck that is.
Player in the draft is going to be a guard regardless.
27 points,
so
damn.
Who do you pick? Have you made your choice? Well, in this case, it's far too early to tell who will be the best NBA player in years to come. It's also tough to assess which prospect is the best one because their circumstances and game are all so different.
Facts.
Experiments like this are impossibly difficult. You don't have the advantage of watching a player's strengths and weaknesses unfold in front of your eyes, but it gives us some insight as to what GMs, scouts, and coaches go through on a yearly basis. And just like the league itself, the NBA draft goes through phases. Like in the early 2000s, when the NBA went through its high school prospect craze. From the time the NBA was founded in 1949 all the way through the 2000 NBA draft, there were a total of 14 high school players selected in the NBA draft. In the 5 years following the 2000 NBA draft, there were 28 high school players selected in the NBA draft, peaking in 2004 and 2005 with 17 high school players selected in just 2 seasons. Of course, this was following the success of LeBron James, and the trend that followed was massive. NBA teams were chasing high school players like Robert Swift and Ricky Sanchez in hopes that they would land the next superstar. The draft was getting crazy. Only 5 times in NBA history has a player with no college experience gone first overall in the draft. All 5 of these picks came within a 6-year span. But the odds of a team making the right choice in the NBA draft is slim. Out of tens of thousands of potential prospects, the NBA draft narrows the pool of players down to about 80. 80 guys that have a shot at getting drafted. Out of these 80 players, 60 of them will actually get drafted. Out of the 60 that are drafted, 8 won't even play a single second in the NBA. Of the 52 that do see action in the NBA, only 39 draftees will play at least 1 season in the NBA. We are down to just 39 players, and we have only covered a season's worth of games of NBA playing time. Out of these 39 players, about 12 will average 10 points or more throughout their career. And of these 12% of the time,
oh shit,
that's atrocious. Tip 10 pick in the draft, you would be laughing. There were getting crazy. Making the right draft narrow a single NBA playing time. But here's the kicker. On average, only 1 in 2 draft classes features a league MVP. In fact, in the last 25 years, there have been just as many busts chosen with the number 1 overall pick as league MVPs. So, you have the honors of selecting the first overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft. As optimistic as you want to be, odds are you won't select the best player in the draft. The player you do select has about a 75% chance of becoming an all-star, and about a 1 in 5 chance of becoming a league MVP. but he also has the same odds of becoming a bust. You are in need of a lengthy point guard to bring a spark to your franchise.
Bro, a 6'7" athletic guard, bro. Huh? It's a no-brainer, bro.
But then again, you have a shot at an NBA-ready 7'1" big man who looks to be the best player in the draft regardless of position. Your fan base is begging you to go with the general consensus and choose the player who is projected to go first overall. But the 2-year college guy that has proven time after time that he can perform with consistency and efficiency is starting to look like the most reasonable pick. 5 minutes on the clock.
Why would you not pick a 6'7" athletic point guard?
Pick.
Makes no sense. Is that it? Oh, damn, we already did. Oh, damn. Hey. Yo. I mean, anything else, right? No. Hey, well, that's going to do it for this video. Yo, if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Maybe give me some comments. What I should react to next. Give me some feedback. Give me something. I'm thirsty for it. Y'all catch you on the next video, though.